Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Vin, and we are going to talk to him a little bit about his services that are unique. He is a doctor, but you don't necessarily have to go to a hospital to see him. Is that correct in the description?
Yes, that's correct, Lisa. We only do visits in patients' homes and residences. I have an office practice. We do not have an office or a nursing home practice.
Okay.
We're ourselves residentialists with specialties for care within the walls of a patient's home.
You know, it's very unique. I mean, I don't know the last time that I actually knew that there were doctors that still do that. Is it very unique?
It's not as unique as it used to be, Lisa. The Housecall was pretty much almost an extinct dinosaur in the late 90s when a group of dedicated clinicians around the country gathered together in the American Academy of Home Care Medicine to routinize best practices, standards for home care medicine, share operating techniques, clinical best practices, how to garner resources. And now it's grown that there's around the country some very large groups and actually some small solo practices, sometimes in cities, sometimes in rural areas.
Right, right. Well, you know, for our area, I mean, we have about 18,000 residents here. How often do you visit homes here in the Laguna Woods Village?
I would say every week we have a clinician several days in the Laguna Woods Village, depending on the need. It's actually very serendipitous. Laguna Woods Village is very near and dear to our heart because our headquarters, which serves a 3-county area here in California, actually is less than a mile from the Laguna Woods Village up near Lake Forest and Moulton. So I've been going to Laguna Woods Village since 2002 personally. And we have other clinicians that service our patients in that area.
That is great. And you know, now, of course, we have the stay-at-home orders that we've been doing for now about 8 weeks. And I am sure that you've had to rearrange your practices. And, you know, tell me how you've had to change the way you've operated your services over the last few weeks.
Well, it's been a journey for us and for our patients. We've had to adapt, number one, to screening patients to make sure that they're not high suspicion of an active COVID infection. We change our protocols. We've stood up, when I say stood up, meaning implemented a televideo program to supplement our face-to-face visits. Face-to-face visits, we have protocols to protect both our clinicians and in particular the patients, because they're often somewhat isolated if they're living in their home, and particularly if they have a hard time getting out to the doctor. And we are coming from the outside, and we're fully aware of that. So we're wearing personal protective equipment. We have protocols for the clinicians to check their temperature before every visit.
Okay.
So that they're not a vector of infection. We're wiping off our equipment before and after every visit. Being respectful of patients that do not feel comfortable having us come into their homes. That's why we have several televideo platforms, both what's called non-secure and secure. Keep a thread with them and keep continuity. You know, you can't do a physical exam, but we actually even will have patients move the camera or their phone around if we need to look at the swelling in their legs, look at a lesion on their cheek or their forehead. It's been quite an odyssey because it all had to be adapted so quickly. Before, you know, we focused mainly on clinician training, quality of care, and how to do the routing around visits, how to message to our patients, and we've added a whole nother layer on top of that. But I would say overall it's been good because it's proven not only to our community of clinicians, but the rest of the clinician community, what a valuable adjunct telemedicine can be in addition to face-to-face visits. Having said that, we feel that all of the new technologies that are coming to home care represent a convergence rather than a disruption. We see patients moving toward more remote monitoring, and that will be added as an adjunct. The telemedicine is another adjunct. Artificial intelligence for predicting disease states and risks of acute care, an adjunct. But the truth is, people still like the face-to-face visit.
Yeah.
There's nothing like human touch and face-to-face compassion and empathy that will help a patient feel secure, and actually will encourage them that someone cares about them, and encourage them, despite whatever challenges they have in their life, to be compliant with recommendations to minimize risks of decline. We also have a holistic approach to culture, and so we're very interested in the patient's environment. We're interested in their pets. I mean, I actually like to pet dogs and cats because I find them interesting. I'm a pet lover.
Well, they're relaxing. I mean, they're kind of therapeutic.
And the fact is, you will learn some things in a patient's home about the environment, the social, what's called the social determinants of health, the environment, the caregiver, the safety, food choices, that you would never learn in an office visit. And it allows you to understand the patient better, come up with a treatment plan that's more customized to their particular needs. We're very concerned during COVID about social isolation. Even the visits we are doing via telemedicine, we are screening for, are the patients being compliant with safety recommendations? What are they doing being isolated? Are they getting more depressed? Are they getting more anxious? We had one patient, we actually have a network on the East Coast, and we had one patient that said she could not get food.
Oh, no.
Think about that. I mean, you see on the TV people in food lines, but imagine somebody who has access issues, can't get out of their homes,
right?
Doesn't have caregivers, doesn't have a family member nearby. In many cases, we become a social services organization as well as a clinical organization, trying to look at the whole person. And I think of it sometimes as like an orchestra conductor playing the right instruments to make the right music for each patient. It's kind of a customized process. Do they need caregivers? Do they need food? Do they need safety precautions and counseling? Do they need physical therapy? Do they need home health? Do they need wound care? Part of a ongoing list of items that we review when we see patients in their homes. And during this COVID crisis, we're still screening for the unique features relative to COVID. And then if we need to integrate a social services agency, a food bank, a crisis counseling line, somebody who's feeling isolated and particularly depressed, there's some new instruments in the orchestra that we're using more and more during these unique times.
Right, exactly. Now, let me ask you how it works with your particular type of service. So when we go to the doctor, we would make an appointment just like making a phone call or going online, and then we would go to the facility, and then they would bill it as through insurance just like they normally would. So how does the process work with you?
Well, there is pretty and standard coverage under Medicare.
Okay.
Home care services. We try to screen to make sure that they're medically indicated. One of my long-time comments that I make is we're not really just doing home visits so somebody won't be late for their golf lesson or their tennis lesson. Most of the patients really are access challenged, and even Medicare is loosening the guidelines on those.
Yeah.
If they do not have what we call straight Medicare, traditional Medicare, let's say they're in an HMO, an organization, for example, that has a heavy presence in Laguna Woods, like Monarch and Optum Healthcare.
Right.
We work very closely with them.
Okay.
Collaborate on patients that might benefit from the kind of services we offer in lieu of an ambulatory office visit. We don't work with all organizations, but there is a number of organizations, managed care organizations and groups that have a presence in South Orange County And we will try to work with the patient, with the network, with the patient's primary care physician, and determine if our services are both additive and appropriate.
Excellent. Well, it sounds remarkable, and I'm sure you're very busy, maybe now more than ever. I mean, I think we have to jump through a lot more hoops these days in terms of not being able to go. So I appreciate you explaining the process. Any last things you'd like to let us know?
Well, I think that this situation will pass. Whether we're in a COVID crisis or a non-COVID crisis, access and continuity are important in healthcare, including those who are access challenged. The important thing is understanding patient prognosis, the whole situation, whether you're the patient or the clinician, and that disease management is not the only issue that's important. It's quality of life. It's a sense of well-being and security and feeling that somebody cares about you. And whether it's us or another clinician or another practice, we know that that's important for patients. And I do think the patients should try to take advantage of that, because the people that do this kind of work generally are what I would call somewhat mission driven. There's probably a lot more convenient ways to practice medicine.
Yes. Well, that's great. Thank you.
It's rewarding.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking the time.
Very good. And thank you. Appreciate it, Lisa.
You're welcome. And next time, hopefully we'll have you on and I'll be in the studio.
Yes, we'll all have a different environment.
This is true. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you. And we'll be right back after this.